That's the delicate sound of Freya from her debut album Of Water. The up-and-coming Auckland-based artist is celebrating the release of her new album with a show at the Ponsonby Social Club. We caught up with Freya just prior to her album release gig to find out a little bit about the person behind the voice. But first, we wanted to know what we can expect on the night of the big show.
So, yeah, in the past I've only ever played just me and my acoustic guitar, but this time I'm joined by Noah Page from Depot Studios on drums.
Okay.
And my brother Ben Jones on bass. He's in Frank on Tap, if you know that one. And on guitar I have Tegan Newton.
Okay. So that's exciting. So this is,
Yeah.
you're saying this is the first time you've done it with a band, or first time recently?
First time really ever performing my songs with a band, yeah.
All right. So you've been doing some rehearsals. How's it sounding? How's it working?
Yeah, I think it's sounding really, really cool. Yeah, just sort of taking on a life of their own in a really cool way. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Nice. All righty. Well, let's talk about these songs. You have an album out. It's called Of Water, and it just came out recently, right?
It's coming out tomorrow officially.
Oh, it's coming out tomorrow officially.
Yes.
Okay.
It was released early on Bandcamp.
Right. That's why I was confused, because there's all these little different ways of releasing things these days.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah. All right. So, and you had one EP before that a while back. Did you have anything else, or is that everything that I need to know about?
I did also a little live EP around a similar time. But yeah, this is my first project since 2021.
And was there a reason why such a long gap? Busy with other things?
Busy with other things. I started at university, so that's sort of very time consuming.
Right.
But also, I did have a bit of a sort of musical hiatus. I was 17 when I released that project, and most of the songs were sort of from 15, 17, kind of teenage age group. So this is sort of the mature progression.
Right.
And it took a bit of time for me to sort of advance to a point where I was really happy, and then I chose the 7 songs that I love the most, and I'm really proud of all of them.
Did you have a lot to choose from?
I did. I didn't write for maybe a year or two after high school.
Right.
And then in 2023, I got really creative again. And so most of the songs are from 2023, I'd say.
Okay. So what motivates you to do the music and to write the songs?
I think it's very intrinsically part of who I am. I was writing heartbreak songs when I was like 8.
Right.
So it's been very early and sort of constant experience through my life. But this new body of work is kind of the first time I've actually written from actual experience of actual heartbreak.
Oh.
So it's pretty crazy. Before it was sort of entirely hypothetical.
Right.
This time I was pulling from
speaking from experience, huh?
Exactly.
Well, sorry to hear it, but most people end up having to go through it at least once or twice. So
exactly, and the bright side is the music at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And so, what is your musical background? What drew you to music? Was there something you heard on the radio, something you saw on TV, some show that you saw?
I think I attribute it mostly to the fact that my parents sung me lullabies every night before bed.
Right.
And so I was singing from a really, really young age, making up little songs. And then I was put into piano lessons at age 5 and singing lessons for a decade from 8.
Right.
So I was classically trained.
Oh.
So it's been very much a part of my childhood and my life. And then I started getting really into the proper songwriting when I was probably 15, which was 2019.
Because one thing to sing, and there's another thing to write the songs, isn't it?
Exactly. And especially adding the guitar was a really big transformation for me. Because before that, it was only melodies over like garage band loops or like with no backing. So yeah.
All right. So how did you put the record together? What did you go to a studio? Did you do it at home? What kind of circumstances?
So I call it the bones of the songs. I'd say at the end of 2023, I believe. And then that was sort of as I wrote them, so the acoustic guitar and the lead vocals. And then about a year later, I met my producer, Harry Charles Leatherby.
Right.
We played a gig together and sort of immediately admired each other's work. And then he said, I'm looking to produce someone. And I said, I've been looking for a producer for a year
There you
and
go.
I've got these songs ready to go. So yeah, it's all written by me, but then working with him, we did that mostly over last summer. And then all the songs were finished in about March.
Okay.
So that was a really fun process of a lot of it working at his house, in his little studio there, and then a few recording days at Big Fan, and a few mixing days at Depot Sound Studio, and then mastered by Downbeat Mastering.
Gotcha. So what kind of conversations did you and Harry have back and forth about what you wanted him to do, what he wanted to do to your, because you must have felt a bit of, I mean, somebody, you've had these things, you made them initially, they're yours, and now suddenly somebody's coming along and throwing their 2 cents into it.
For sure. It was a very trusting and easy collaborative process, I would say, which was really wonderful.
Uh-huh.
He was very good at, I would say, creating the space for me to be able to say whatever I wanted. And I always kind of had the final word, but he would contribute his amazing ideas. It's really fun because he does sort of organic house DJ music. So it's the combination of that with my folk songs.
Uh-huh.
Why I call it folktronica, because
Yes.
it was really fun what he could contribute in terms of the synths and the beats and the samples. That really, for me, it's like sort of decorating and like an ornamental process over the songs. And it was really fun. And I'd say the biggest issue would only be how minimal do we keep it?
Right.
Sort of remembering to bring it back down and always keeping the songs and the emotions at the forefront. That's a big part of my music.
Okay. All right. So pick one of the 7 songs that are on the record and tell me how it kind of changed from what it was originally to what we end up hearing now.
Yeah. Most of them were pretty smooth. It was really just an amazing collaboration. But I'd say Body of Water, that's the most sort of most mournful and despairing song. So it's really emotionally charged in especially the melody right at the end of the song. I'm kind of vocalizing with no words, and it's just an emotional expression. And at that point, we sort of wanted at first to have kind of a big outro to match that emotional swell. But we found that it was actually almost too chaotic to have too much else going on because there was so much in just the lead vocal. So we ended up sort of stripping it back and sort of muffling things and spacing it out, and that made a really big difference. I'm reaching out for
lyrically, you kind of put yourself into the songs. I am a diver, or I am the river, or I am porcelain, things like that. So is that something you consciously do, or is it just the way it comes out?
I'd say it's the way it comes out, and they are very personal, emotional, sort of confessional style songs. So I find that, yeah, it is about kind of my experience with that emotion and with kind of concepts and metaphors and things all kind of intertwined with that.
All right. Do you have to are you wary of making them too personal, your lyrics?
I think maybe I had a few moments of wondering that, but most of them are as they came out. It's it's very much for me sort of a freestyling sort of train of thought songwriting process. So a lot of them I was like, oh, is that too much? But I think the vulnerability and the bravery is, I think, a big part of the value of my songs.
Right. So you we don't take everything literally that we read about in the lyrics, because you obviously like a metaphor or two here or there. But
I do.
Maybe you can discuss yours, which it talks about soldiers walking home, and like I said, but it feels very meditative, like,
Mm.
but near the end, it kind of builds up. There's almost like a band behind you.
We did that in quite a lot of the songs. The drums kind of come in right at the end and create a nice kind of outro. But that one is kind of more a love song, more a happy love song than some of the other tracks. But I think at the same time, there is a kind of sinister underbelly to it, where there's that kind of synth sound that comes in the chorus. It's kind of twisted and eerie, and that's kind of reflecting the fact that when I wrote it, I thought it was very romantic, and then interpreting the lyrics more, I feel like it's very much a song of like codependency or like giving too much. And it was kind of interesting to go through that emotional process and then reflect that in the production.
So do the
Yeah.
songs kind of, their meanings change for you after a while? Do you look at them differently than when you started out with them or when you first
Yeah.
had the idea?
Yeah, often. Often I will sort of think that I know how I feel about something, and then the song comes out, and then I reflect on it, and I think, oh, there's sort of all these little subconscious hidden parts that I didn't really realize were a part of it, but they're like multi-layered for sure.
Right. And like when you play out tomorrow, these days there's a lot of interaction with the artists and the fans who come to see you or anyone because you're selling the merch and things like that. So that's how you make your money. So you kind of have to open up to them about it, and they open up to you. Do you look forward to that kind of interaction?
Oh, absolutely. My goal used to be to try and make someone cry because I know that I'm really expressing them fully and being able to be in the moment and perform that. And then for people to receive it, it's so fulfilling. And that's like the biggest goal for me for sure, that kind of emotional connection.
Uh-huh. So you got the one show tomorrow. Is there what else is coming up for you?
So I played a little solo acoustic gig on Monday at the Bunker
Oh,
on
right.
Mount
Yep.
Victoria. I love it there. And then this is the big one tomorrow. Yep, the album release gig. And then Saturday, I'm opening for a band from Wellington, Day Moon,
Okay.
at Ding Dong Lounge. So that's
Yep.
kind of a combination of a bit of folk and a bit more kind of rock,
Right.
which will be fun. And then next Friday, I'm playing live to air on 95
Oh,
BFM
that'll be nice.
band,
Very cool.
which is really exciting.
Yep. 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 And are you thinking ahead to your next album? I assume it's not going to take quite so long since the EPs that preceded it.
Hopefully not. I think I'm really excited to kind of stay on this momentum that I've built and kind of switch back into creative mode. I do find it a really different stage of the process to be doing this kind of marketing, production stuff that I've been doing for over a year.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward to getting back and writing some more stuff for sure.
Do you like being an independent artist, or would you prefer to have somebody else come and take over some of the more mundane aspects of the business?
I think that could be lovely. This has been my first time kind of independently putting it out. With my last project, I had a lot of help from like family and
Uh-huh.
things like that. But this one was me kind of taking it all on, and there is a lot of admin and emailing and all of that. But I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And I do think that perhaps being signed to a label and the pressure of deadlines and things would kind of hinder my creative process or something.
Right.
It's the same reason I didn't choose to study music at university,
Uh,
because for me, it's so deeply emotional and it's also quite spiritual for me, the writing process,
yep.
that I don't think that I could kind of confine myself to strict deadlines and expectations. I like to kind of let it blossom however it blossoms and then work from there.
Right. And I don't know what
Yeah.
you do other than because obviously you're not. getting rich writing songs and singing. So I don't know what you do as a real job, but is it easy to balance one and the other at this point in your life?
Yeah, it is. It's not too bad. I've been working around my university schedule, so
Okay.
I'm studying anthropology and criminology.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of research essays and writing, which is really fun, but it's definitely a kind of a logical mindset as opposed to this creative one. But I've managed to work it around, like I was doing a lot of the production in my uni summer break, and then I've had a part-time semester this semester, so I've had all the time to do all the admin half time while also studying. So it's kind of finding that balance and squeezing it in where I can.
Very good. All right. Well, it sounds like it's all happening and
Yeah.
finally moving along as hopefully you wanted
Yeah.
to. Very good. So
Exactly.
hopefully the gig will go well tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm really excited.
What time are you on?
I'll be on before 9.
Okay.
So my opening act finishes at 8:45.
Okay. Who's opening?
Lors, do you know her? She's another kind of singer-songwriter, a bit folky, a bit more pop, perhaps.
Okay.
She's really cool. Sort of a similar confronting, intimate, vulnerable emotions,
Okay.
but I would say she does it in a more kind of warm way.
Okay.
Not so much despair, perhaps.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.